Good evening, I'm Jorge Ramos, and this is Fusion. This is new. We are a brand new show on a brand new network in what often feels like a brand new world. We are perfectly aware that you can get your news from many different sources. So we want to be a platform that truly connects with a new, highly diverse generation of Americans. We'll cover what we think is the most important news of the day. We want to challenge the people making the news. We want to follow what's popular in social media, but also, as journalists, we want to report on issues that we care deeply about too. Look, it's no secret that I've been talking about the need for immigration reform for years. After all, I'm an immigrant, so we'll cover that for sure. But also, how can we not talk about gun control or about the lack of equality in our nation, or ask ourselves why the government is spying on us and on foreign leaders? Now, just a quick note about the name of the show, America. Well, as many of you know, America has two completely different meanings. Here, America is our home, our country, of course. But America, with an accent, really encompasses the entire hemisphere, from Canada to Chile, from Los Angeles to Rio. So we want to be a bridge between those two Americas. In other words, our show will be news with an accent. And of course, that will include my own. So here we go. This is America. Tonight on the show, Senator Ted Cruz, singer Enrique Iglesias, and an exclusive interview with President Barack Obama, who earlier today had this to say.
What I am confirming is the fact that we're undergoing a complete review of how our intelligence operates outside of the country. What we've seen over the last several years is their capacities continue to develop and expand, and that's why I'm initiating now a review to make sure that what they're able to do doesn't necessarily mean what they should be doing.
Later, we will show you our entire interview with President Barack Obama. But first, let's begin with a man who calls himself America's toughest sheriff. What he doesn't know is that he is possibly the most hated man in the Hispanic community. His name is, of course, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, and he is unforgiven. A man who has put tens of thousands of people in jail, many of them Hispanics. We went to his infamous tent city in Phoenix, Arizona with Sheriff Arpaio and made him confront the people he has jailed. From the very beginning, he has lived up to his reputation. Joe Arpaio, at 81 years old, he's unapologetic, old-fashioned, and sheriff to Maricopa County.
¿Cómo estás, señor?
Sheriff,
how are you?
How are you doing?
How's the Presidente doing?
It's fine.
You asked him for a birth certificate when you saw him?
Come on, you're going to tell me right from the start that President Obama was not born in the United States?
I didn't say that. I said the fraudulent birth certificate from Hawaii is a fake.
We haven't spoken of it even 30 seconds, and you already said something outrageous. His infamous tent city has some 2,000 inmates living under military tents, forced to wear pink underwear under the black and white striped uniforms in triple-digit heat.
20 years I put these tents up. August 3, 1993. They're still here. 20-year anniversary last month.
Inmates are biding their time for misdemeanors ranging from drunk driving to drug dealing.
Well, I think you're supposed to be treated with a certain level of dignity, decency, maybe somewhat a grain of respect.
If you're going to be a you know what, then you need to get treated like one, you know?
Arpaio says his jail saves Maricopa County millions of dollars in building and operational costs thanks to its minimalist living conditions. He feeds prisoners 2 meals a day, valued between 15 to 40 cents each.
We eat pig slop every day, not even fit for animals.
Inside the slop, there's always hairs, fingernails.
The food is very harsh, very harsh. I don't even have an appetite in the morning. I'm losing weight because it makes me sick to my stomach to even smell it.
Hold on. Eat it. Yeah, let's eat it. Slop. Eat it.
Do you have a spoon?
This is what you got.
Really?
No salt.
Listen, I'm talking about dignity here. Give me a scoop.
Honestly, that looks awful.
Oh, wait a minute.
I'm not feeding my dog.
Give me a couple.
Spinach. Oh yeah, the potatoes. Those look nice. They're usually they're like really runny.
I quit. You don't like that. You don't like that either.
That's not lunch because we're only lunch for an hour.
Okay,
You get the message?
we get the message, right?
Well, they like it.
No, we don't.
Hey, you didn't hear this. You didn't hear this.
Pardon?
Is he treating you in a humane way?
What'd you say?
The dogs get treated better than we do.
Dogs in masks get treated
Dogs
better.
get treated better than they do.
Wait a minute. The dogs are victims. Have you taken care of the dogs in my jail?
How many victims?
Oh, you don't like that program? They take care of the dogs.
But wait, what they're saying is important. They're saying you're not treating them as a human being.
Of course I am. You're getting 2,800 calories more than I get.
No, but it's not in terms of food. It's the overall treatment.
They're getting these programs, dignity, religious programs, drug prevention. They've been through our drug prevention. Read to me, mommy. I could go on and on.
Despite the criticism, inmates still see him as a man of power.
Thank you.
Why do you want his autograph?
He's like the sheriff. He's effective. I mean, I don't want to be back here.
The average inmate stay in Tent City is about 5 to 6 months, but many come back for more. The latest study that looked at the return to prison rates before and after Arpaio's tenure found his influence has had little to no impact.
How you doing?
I've been better. How old are you? I have one more day left. I'm 30 years old.
No kidding.
So you're leaving tomorrow?
Leaving tomorrow.
You coming back?
I say that every time.
And you keep coming back?
Yes, sir. Maricopa County.
How many times have you been here?
Too many.
Too many?
So you must like it here.
I hate it here.
Why do you keep coming back?
Why do you hate it?
The food tastes like crap. It's hotter than hell in these tents.
You know, these are really incredibly tough conditions.
Well, he made me sad.
Why?
He's honest, but one of the reasons I do this so you don't come back. So I'm very, very disappointed that you've been here before.
Probation's hard. I've been back a bunch of times.
How many of you have been back? Raise your hands.
The laws here are so crazy.
So
They must like it.
no, wait. Maybe
here.
that means that it's not working. That,
Well, you know
your brand is not working.
Okay, you know it is working because I'm saving taxpayers millions and millions of
but
dollars.
they're coming back.
It's okay,
if what
they
you
wanna
were,
come back,
if
they're
what you've been
still gonna-
doing works, why are they coming back?
Ask them.
I love
They
this
asked
guy.
me for.
No, I mean obviously
He's blasting.
obviously the punishment that they received here is not exactly what you expected. These are real stories.
Now, one of our problems is a drug. You guys use drugs?
No, I'm in here for continuous methamphetamine charges.
I've never done drugs in my life.
I've been convicted 4 times, and this is the first time I've been offered drug treatment.
Excuse me, what about the reach out program? I was sentenced to that, but there's no funding in it. I was given a program, I was hoping to get into rehab to get some help, and I find out that there's no funding for the program.
They're asking for help. They're asking for help, but they're not getting it right now.
Well, this is a small group here. I don't know what this group is.
We didn't choose it.
what
We
our-
didn't choose it.
No,
Just
I-
by chance we got nothing was arranged, and then what you're getting is a lot of criticism from the people detained
Let me
here.
say something. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to get your names. I'm going to find out what the real story is. The real story that you're telling.
But don't go against it.
I'm not going to go because I want to learn through this process and see what the real story is.
Arpaio has sold himself as a symbol of tough law enforcement, an approach that won him 6 elections. Overall, you would say that you've been successful?
I had one riot in 1996. So the point is I don't have hardly any riots. They riot around the nation because the pizza is cold. How come I don't have riot? And I don't run the like a Hilton hotel.
The tents, pink underwear, and cheap food all make for a good sales pitch to the public. And according to Arpaio, is how he continues to get reelected. He says he raised $8.5 billion last year.
This year it's only $3 million in the last 8 months. So I could run for governor. You want to know why I keep getting reelected? I mean, did I run for sheriff? You want to know the answer? One reason is that the people want me, regardless of what you say. And number 2, I'm a fighter.
Joining me now is Alicia Menendez, host of AM Tonight here on Fusion. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alicia. And Joe Hagan, who has reported extensively on Sheriff Arpaio for Rolling Stone, and now, of course, with New York Magazine. Joe, thanks so much. So let me ask you, is Joe Arpaio really out of sync with the rest of America? What's going on with him?
Well, he may be out of sync with the rest of America, but he's in sync with his Maricopa County in Arizona, which is largely conservative, and he's managed to get elected 6 times, as you said. He's used that tent city that you saw, that you toured, as kind of a media prop to kind of advertise himself nationally. But I don't know if, I doubt that this is how the rest of America would want their jails run.
Alicia, something really interesting is that this dynamic between the detainees and Joe Arpaio, it seems that like they really like him somehow. I can't understand it, but they seems to like him.
They call him inhumane, and then at the same time they're cracking jokes with him. It's really interesting.
And they're saying that they're being treated like dogs, and at the same time they want his autograph, right?
Makes no sense.
Yeah, now, when it comes to politics, if he's so wrong, how come he has been reelected so many times?
Well, I think you see that he is on a downward trend, right? In 2000, he was being elected with 66% of the vote. By 2012, his latest and most difficult election, he was getting just over 50% of the vote. So the numbers are trending in a direction away from him, but he's still winning pretty decisively.
No, do you think America is going with Joe Arpaio, or is going exactly the opposite way? Or it's a matter of cycles here in the United States. Whenever we have economic problems like 2008, people were more anti-immigrant, and now it's just changing slowly?
America, I think, has been pro-immigration reform for a very long time. I think when you look at a state like Arizona, there is a different tension. There's a demographic tension that is happening there and that is playing out in the immigration debate.
Joe, let me ask you, I've seen jails like this in other countries in Latin America, but I never expected to see anything like this in the United States. How can he get away with it?
Well, you know, he often dubs himself a constitutional sheriff, which means he is upholding the Constitution of the United States. This is kind of a dog whistle kind of phrase that means I'm a states' right advocate. He is able to kind of like create his own laws there in that county, and there's no real check on his power. And he's got the support of the Republican Party in that state for the past many years. So he's able to act with impunity in ways that you know, most other kinds of law enforcement can't.
Joe, just finally, you know, something really interesting is that I sense that he feels that people like him, although, believe me, in the Hispanic community, he's really hated.
That's right.
Did you get the same sense about him?
Well, he's so used to the media attention that he's sort of conflated, you know, his popularity on people like you and I going to talk to him with people liking him, when in fact he's just courting controversy and giving himself a higher media stature.
So, Alicia, do you think that his brand is toxic?
His brand is toxic to whom? To Republicans? I mean, potentially, right? I think as the Republican Party tries to remake itself, particularly for a Latino electorate, yes, it is. But I also worry that in a state like Arizona, he's created a legacy whereby now there are more elected officials who have modeled themselves after his behavior. And so his legacy in Arizona is something that will endure much longer.
Joe Hagan and Alicia, thanks so much. And we'll see you tonight at 8 o'clock. Okay, Alicia, thanks so much. Tomorrow we'll bring you part 2 of our interview with the sheriff. In the meantime, you can find a complete timeline of Joe Arpaio's career at our website, fusion.net. But stay with us, because next on America, you'll meet 3 people who are talking about what others hide, and that is being sexually abused by a Catholic priest. Before we go any further, a disclaimer. This next story is about sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. But it's not the same story you've been hearing over and over again. I've been covering this issue for years, and I know it's very difficult to talk about. But these are some of the most revealing and personal interviews I have ever done. This conversation is about sexuality, deception, and courage. Rita Milla was 18 when she was raped.
He pulled out a condom, and he basically raped me, and then he just left me there on the bed.
Manny Vega was only 10.
Digital penetration, masturbation, oral copulation, fondling, taking nude pictures of me.
Esther Miller, 16.
I was afraid. I was petrified. If I don't challenge him, he won't knock my teeth out like my mom had her teeth knocked out.
3 innocent souls assaulted by church clergy.
He would tell me things like, you know, you're so special that God has allowed me to be ordained so that I could teach you what pure love is.
Esther vividly remembers how the abuse began back in 1980, when Deacon Michael Nocita started writing her letters. On the night she was first assaulted, Esther's parents had invited the deacon to stay with them.
And that's the first time that there was the physical touch, where he started kissing my tears, licking my neck. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, am I imagining this? Why is he touching me like this? Why is he caressing me and holding me and his hands are going down onto my breast?
And then when that happened?
And then there was
no limit.
No, it was in parking lots, at golf courses, Disneyland, hotels.
How did you end it?
Well, you know, they transferred him.
That's the modus operandi. Always transfer them and protect them. That's the feeling.
Correct.
This year, the Archdiocese of Los Angeles released files that show church officials knew of Deacon Michael Nocira's encounters with young women, placing him on inactive leave in 1991. Former Archbishop Roger Mahoney's notes and initials appear on the files. Earlier this year, current Archbishop Jose Gomez publicly denounced Mahoney's mishandling of clergy sex abuse and relieved his predecessor of all public duties. Do you still consider yourself a victim?
I've moved from victimhood to survivor to thriver. And it took years.
After suffering in silence for 27 years, Esther now works to help other victims.
I'm committed to this cause, like till I die. Because if I can, till I die.
That's really strong.
I thought I was alone. And there are other souls out there that are alone.
Souls like Manny Vega, who also suffered in silence.
I was an altar boy at Our Lady of Guadalupe in Oxnard. At the time, Father Fidencio Silva, who's a missionary of the Holy Spirit, had come. He was a new priest, very energetic.
It was 1979, and Manny was trying to escape a life on the streets. To be associated with the Catholic Church was a great thing for your family.
It was the norm. There was nothing else other than that. During that time that he came in, my parents were having marital difficulties. My heart was just broken apart. I was a young boy, and that's where he found the weakness.
They are experts in finding.
These men take that inside information and they twist it around, and they find vulnerability within the family and they exploit it.
Manny says he tolerated the abuse because he was caught up in the mystical spell of Father Fidencio and the church.
And so this progressed not only to me, but there was also other occasions where the abuse happened in group settings with other altar boys.
Rita Milla endured the pain alone as well.
I was abused as a teenager by one priest who later invited other priests. And eventually it ended up being 7 priests who abused me.
Your story was one of my first stories. And you had the courage back then to say things that many people take decades to say. Now, how did it go from being abused by one priest to being abused by 7 priests?
It was first just Father Tamayo. He got me used to the touching little by little. Later on, he started doing other things with his hands. He took me to a house where he had taken me before, and I thought it was going to be more of the same thing. He brought another priest with him. And while the other priest was in the living room, Father Tamayo took me into the bedroom.
Rita was raped there by Father Tamayo. Afterwards, the second priest, Father Angel Cruces, came to the room and raped her also.
I went into the bathroom and I just wanted to flush myself down the toilet because I thought that's where I belonged.
So then after those 2 priests, another 5 came?
Yes. There were,
in different occasions?
Different occasions. There was one time that there were like 4 priests at the same time.
4 priests at the same time?
Yes, and then they would come in one by one, and it didn't stop until I became pregnant by one of them.
Rita was sent to the Philippines to give birth to her daughter.
Father Tamayo said, if anybody finds out that you're pregnant, they're going to know it's one of us. So to protect the church, we have to hide you. You have to leave.
To protect the church. That's what he said.
Yes.
Not to protect you, to protect the church.
To protect the church. And I was so Catholic that I said, yes, we have to protect the church. For some reason, I thought that it had been my fault.
Would you have any interest in knowing if they're alive or not?
I would, because I wouldn't want them to be priests. I wouldn't want them to keep doing what they're doing.
Manny Vega joined the Marines when he was 16 to escape the torture. He was a scout sniper and was awarded the nation's highest peacetime award for heroism. Today, he's a retired police officer living in Oxnard, California. Is Father Fidencio alive?
He's still alive.
Where is he?
From what I understand, he's in Mexico. I want to give him the opportunity to sit with me, and we're going to talk it out like men. I want...
You still want to do that?
Oh, absolutely.
You want to confront him?
I want to do the Christian thing, the right thing. In other words, give him the opportunity to clear the slate so he can go to heaven.
And what would you want to tell him then?
Because I want to show him that I'm more of a man than he is. I took the abuse, I suffered the abuse, I suffered the abuse today.
Esther Miller can't forgive the man who still torments her. Have you been looking for him?
No. Mm-mm.
Because?
Because I think I would kill him.
Even now?
Even now, yeah.
The hatred is
the
so deep.
murder that he did to me is almost irreparable.
I am incredibly thankful to those victims for speaking so openly to us, and we'll be hearing more of their stories next week. And of course, as journalists, we wanted to get the other side of the story. The Archdiocese of Los Angeles issued a statement outlining the steps they have taken to bring justice and healing to abuse victims, including operating a victims assistance ministry to provide counseling to victims and a safe environment for victims to come forward while ensuring that civil authorities are notified. The full statement is available on our website, fusion.net. Stay with us because next on America, we go inside the office of Senator Ted Cruz, and I ask him if he wants to be the next president of the United States. Unrepentant, that's how anyone can describe Senator Ted Cruz. And even though the Republican Party came out as a loser in the government shutdown, Senator Cruz acts like a winner, determined more than ever to dismantle Obamacare, and by doing so, positioning himself as a candidate for the White House. But there are a lot of questions. For example, could he even do that? Because, of course, he was born in Canada. We took our cameras to Cruz's office to get him on the record. Yeah, but it's really interesting because they went from, this is what you wanted, right?
Right.
Senator Ted Cruz's fight to defund the Affordable Care Act at all costs made him one of Washington's most despised politicians. For millions of Americans who seek better health care options, Cruz argues that jobs and economic growth are more important. Why did you choose Obamacare to fight against? There are millions of Latinos and millions of people in the United States who don't have health care.
Because the top priority for Texans and actually for Americans across the country is restoring jobs and economic growth.
But if they get sick, Senator, I mean, if you get sick, if your daughters get sick, you have health insurance, one of the best in the country, by the way, no? $20,000 a year, I think. They can't get it.
Well, and
millions can get it.
And Jorge, one of the real problems with Obamacare is people all over the country are losing their health insurance because of Obamacare. You've got millions of people who are losing their jobs, who are being forced into part-time work, who are seeing health insurance premiums skyrocket, and whose insurance is being canceled right now because of Obamacare. Now listen.
You could have chosen any other issue, but you chose this one.
Because it's the #1 job killer in the country.
I spoke with Harry Reid just recently, and he said that you did a lot of damage to the country, that it was very damaging what you did.
6 million people weren't getting paid. They couldn't buy clothes. They couldn't buy gasoline. They couldn't go to movies. What he has done to our country will go down in the history books as one of the most negative approaches to trying to change America that we've ever seen.
I'm not surprised that's Harry Reid's view. And that would be his view no matter what day you talk to him or no matter what issue you talk to him.
He said it was very damaging, and he said that you did it because you want to run for president.
You know, there is a lot of partisan animosity in this town, and that's unfortunate. All over this country. Do you know who's getting hurt the most by Obamacare? It's the most vulnerable among us. It's young people, it's Hispanics, it's African Americans.
But he was saying that you did it for political reasons, because you want to run for president. But do you?
Look, my focus is on representing 26 million Texans and bringing back jobs and economic growth.
I understand, but what Harry Reid is saying that you did everything because you want to run for president.
You know,
that's not a conversation you want to have yet. Or
there is a classic political strategy that if you can't defend the substance, you try to change the topic.
Do you want to run for president?
My focus is on the U.S. Senate.
You were born in Calgary, in Canada. So can you run for president? The Constitution says you can't.
Right. Well, I was born in Calgary. My father's Cuban. My mother's American. My mother was a U.S. citizen by birth, and so under U.S. law, I was an American citizen by birth. Those are the facts.
So you think you are a natural-born citizen?
I was a U.S. citizen by birth. And beyond that, I'm going to leave it to others to worry about the legal consequences.
After reports revealed Cruz is technically a dual citizen, he announced he would give up his Canadian citizenship, fueling speculation that he plans to run for the presidency. Did you renounce to your Canadian citizenship already?
We are in the process of doing that.
In the process, not yet. It hasn't been done.
It hasn't been completed yet.
Both Senator Cruz and his father, Rafael, were born outside the United States. The senator in Canada, his father in Cuba, making for some mixed messages on immigration reform. I was listening to a speech by your father, Rafael, last July in Salt Lake City. And he made a comparison between, of course he was born in Cuba, right? And he made a comparison between Fidel Castro, the dictator, and President Obama.
I grew up in Cuba under a strong military oppressive dictatorship. I think the most ominous words I've ever heard was in the last two State of the Union addresses, when our president said, if Congress does not act, I will act unilaterally. Not much different than that or bearded friend that I left behind in Cuba, governing by decree, by executive order, just like a dictator like Fidel Castro.
Do you agree with him?
Well, I will say it is an incredible blessing to be the child of an immigrant, to be the child of someone like my father who fled oppression and came here with nothing. And one of the real benefits of that is you appreciate how precious and fragile the freedom is that we have here. My father has seen what happens when rule of law is undermined.
And it's a terrible dictatorship in Cuba, but is it fair to compare it with the United States? I mean, is President Barack Obama a dictator from your point of view?
Well, the point he made, look, there's obviously there are enormous differences.
And the U.S. is not a dictatorship. We have freedom of the press. We have a democracy, political parties.
Absolutely, but his point was he was focusing on a statement President Obama made in the State of the Union, where he said if Congress doesn't act to enact his agenda, that he will do it anyway on its own. And one of the things I'm very concerned about is the explosion of power in the federal government.
You think President Obama has been abusing his power?
I think he has absolutely been abusing his power. And when you have a president who says, regardless of whether Congress acts, I'm going to force my agenda on the American people, that's wrong. That's not consistent with our constitutional protections.
One final question. Since we're talking about your father became a citizen in 2005. Right. Why don't you give other immigrants the same possibility, the same opportunity that your father had? You don't want a path to citizenship.
Well,
and he had the opportunity.
As you know, I am a passionate advocate for immigration reform, and I think the way to pass immigration.
Many people don't think that way.
Well, but I am nonetheless, and I think the way to actually pass immigration reform is to focus on areas of bipartisan agreement.
But what would you do with those who are already here, Senator?
Well,
I mean, that's the problem.
A path to citizenship for those who came here illegally, in my view, I think that is unfair to the millions of legal immigrants who waited years, sometimes decades in line to come here.
But your father had a chance, and you were a dreamer. I mean, you came from Canada. And then you don't even want to give them a chance to the dreamers.
Well, but my father came here legally. As you did, as millions of Americans did. Rule of law matters. It matters that you follow the law. And
but we can change those laws. You can change those laws, Senator.
Listen, you and I have both spent a lot of time on the border. And we know the human tragedies that happen because of illegal immigration.
It's really interesting, the perception, because many people think of you as an anti-immigrant, Senator.
Nothing could be further from the truth. And in fact, there is no stronger advocate of legal immigration in the U.S. Senate than I am. I spend every day telling my father's stories. You know what? We are a nation of immigrants, and it's what the basic DNA of America is. Every one of us are children of those who risked everything for freedom and opportunity. That's what it means to be an American.
That's Senator Rafael Edward Cruz. To find out more about the other big players in the debate over immigration reform, check out the Inside Baseball at fusion.net. And let us know what you thought of our interview. And you can also tell Senator Cruz, he's on Twitter just like us. Coming up next on America, President Barack Obama one-on-one exclusive. That's next.
Congratulations on the new venture.
Well, thank you. Welcome to Fusion. This is Fusion, they call it.
Absolutely. Well, it's exciting. So you guys are going to...
That was Fusion's chief White House correspondent, Jim Avila, just a few hours ago speaking to President Barack Obama. Today, Obama is trapped between two controversies. On the domestic front, his healthcare rollout has been a disaster because of a broken website. Meanwhile, on the world stage, head of states are really angry that the U.S. government has been spying on them. So we got a chance to talk with President Barack Obama about these issues.
How are you, Jim?
I'm good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Mr. President.
Congratulations on the new venture.
Well, thank you. Welcome to Fusion. This is Fusion, they call it.
Absolutely. Well, it's exciting.
All right, so, Mr. President, let me ask you first about news of the day, the National Security Administration. People wonder, how is it you didn't know about the cell phones being looked at or listened to, and why you didn't know, and who should have told you?
Well, first of all, I'm not confirming a bunch of assumptions that have been made in the press. But what I have said is that the national security operations generally have one purpose, and that is to make sure that the American people are safe and that I'm making good decisions, and I'm the final user of all the intelligence that they gather. But they're involved in a whole wide range of issues, and we give them policy direction, but what we've seen over the last several years is their capacities continue to develop and expand, and that's why I'm initiating now a review to make sure that what they're able to do doesn't necessarily mean what they should be doing.
So should we assume from that answer, sir, that you did or would know, you would know if actually that was happening?
Jim, as I said, I'm not here to talk about classified information. What I am confirming is the fact that we're undergoing a complete review of how our intelligence operates outside of the country. There are some very strict laws governing what we do internally, and that was the initial concern brought about by some of the Snowden disclosures. Right. Internationally, there are less constraints on how our intelligence teams operate, but what I've said, and I said actually even before the Snowden leaks, is that it's important for us to make sure that as technology develops and expands and the capacity for intelligence gathering becomes a lot greater, that we make sure that we're doing things in the right way and that are reflective of our values.
And if I could switch to immigration, which, as you know, is a very close window right now for action, and I know you have started to do some things, including inviting over some Republican congressmen tomorrow. But some of the younger people that Fusion listens to are asking the question about deportations and why, if you have been able to, by presidential fiat, say that dreamers will not be deported, why not their parents? Why is the splitting of families bothers them?
Well, first of all, the decision we made to make sure that dreamers weren't deported wasn't by presidential fiat. It was an administrative judgment that we've got limited resources, and so we can exercise some judgment in terms of who are the top priority folks that should not be in this country. Criminals, people who are breaking the law, and that dreamers as a category, as a group, who are going to school, who've grown up here just like every other kid and have the same ambitions and aspirations, that they shouldn't have that cloud over them. And so that was the right thing to do. The problem you get is once you get beyond that fairly small, contained group, then how do you make a decision about other categories? You can say initially the parents of dreamers, but then what about uncles or cousins or relatives? And at some point, the biggest challenge we've got is that we've still got a law that doesn't serve the interests of this country. We've got an immigration system that is broken. That's why my top priority has been, let's make sure that we comprehensively reform the whole system so that we're not just dealing with dreamers. We're also dealing with anybody who's here and is undocumented. Let's give them the opportunity to earn a path to citizenship, make sure they're paying a fine, make sure that they're learning English, make sure they're paying back taxes. Let's fix the legal immigration system so that we're not pushing people into an illegal process. And let's make sure that we've got secure borders. And the good news is we've got bipartisan support for that concept. In fact, if the bill that passed on a bipartisan basis in the Senate was put on the floor of the House of Representatives right now, I think it would pass. So the key for folks who are listening to Fusion is to make sure that they continue to put pressure on members of Congress to let's go ahead and get this done before the end of the year. The majority of the American people agree with it. Evangelical groups, labor groups, business groups are united around it. The Democratic Party is fully supportive of it, and we've got some good Republican support for it as well.
Let's go to Obamacare. I guess the main question for Fusion-type listeners is, what's in it for the young people? Are they just the people who are going to finance the older generation in their medical problems? Why would someone who's under 30 want to sign up for Obamacare?
Well, this is pretty straightforward. Study analysis has shown that if you're between 18 and 34 right now, about half of the people can get high-quality health care for less than $50 a month, less than your cell phone bill, less than your cable bill. And about 70% can get it for less than $100 a month. Now, I know that, well, at least I kind of remember when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I thought I was invincible, but it turns out I broke my nose playing basketball. It turns out that, there were times where I had unexpected illnesses or accidents, and making sure that you've got coverage ensures that you're not ending up paying out of pocket thousands of dollars that you may not have. And so this is a good investment for young people. And when you look at the number of young people who actually want health insurance but are having trouble affording it, the fact that we're making it affordable for them for the first time, that's a big deal.
Jim Avila joins us now from Washington. Jim, thanks so much. And the president didn't answer your question. Did he know or didn't he that his government was spying on Angela Merkel?
Well, sources tell us that he did know, and that he knew that, sources tell us that he didn't know for a long time, and in fact only found out very recently, and that 35 other leaders around in other countries have been spied upon by the NSA. And the president was kept in the dark about that for a long time until he ordered this review. And only recently did he find out. Why didn't he say it? It's sort of, Jorge, it's like being put between a rock and a hard place. It's one of those questions like, when did you stop beating your wife? He's in trouble if he didn't know. He's in trouble if he did know. The best way to say is it's classified.
Jim, did you get the sense that he's willing to fight for immigration reform the same way he's fighting for Obamacare?
Well, I think it's a legacy issue with him. I think he really does believe in it. I think that there are two things right now that are his legacy: Obamacare and immigration. He is determined to try to get it done, and I think, yes, he is quite determined to hopefully get it done this year.
And Jim, what surprised you the most? I mean, you've been covering the White House for a long time. What surprised you the most about President Barack Obama today?
Well, I think the surprising thing about President Obama is that he is not all that pleased with some of the things that are going on with his legacy issues, Obamacare, and also in these issues about spying. This is really against what he believes as a Harvard law professor in a lot of these things. So it's very difficult for him right now to talk about these things. He wants to be transparent, but he's found he can't always be.
Jim, thanks so much. Jim Avila, it's great to have you in the team, Jim. Thanks so much for this.
Good.
By the way, along with our debut tonight, we're unveiling a new Fusion ABC News poll on what you think about politics in the U.S. You can read it on our website, fusion.net. We'll be right back. We said it at the top of the show. Enrique Iglesias is here. We'll be back with him in just a moment. This is America. Enrique Iglesias is just as popular in English as in Spanish. He has sold more than 70 million copies, and this morning I had the opportunity to talk with him just a few minutes.
Loving you was easy, thought you'd never leave me, yeah, yeah.
Enrique, thanks so much for talking to us. I really appreciate it. It's the first time that we talk in English.
It's a little strange talking to you in English.
It is with all these accents. So first of all, congratulations on your heart attack.
It hit me like a heart attack when you finally left me, girl.
I was listening to the music and reading some of the lyrics. It seems to me that sometimes the lyrics are not really that important. is the music, is the rhythm?
I think they're both important. It depends what song. Some songs are supposed to be more fun. Some songs are supposed to be more serious.
This morning you did the perfect crossover. You were singing for GMA on ABC, and then you went to Univision and sang again. It's nothing new for you. It's the perfect fusion. You've been doing this for years. So have you noticed it, I don't know, in the last decade, a little more tolerance to different accents and ethnicities in this country?
I 100% notice a lot more tolerance. Look, I was born in Spain. I moved to the U.S. when I was 9 years old, and I came out with my first album when I was in my teens, 1995. And I remember my album was in Spanish, just in Spanish, not in English. And my biggest market was the U.S. And that's when I realized, and I said, my goodness, this is massive.
When you were young, you dedicated your first album to your nanny.
My parents were divorced when I was 3 years old. My mom lived in Spain. My father moved to the U.S. And she was a person that was there constantly. She was the only person that really knew that I wanted to pursue music. She gave me my first $800 to record my first demo. And she's part of the family, and she's like a second mother to me.
You've kept your private life private, and I'll respect that.
I keep it as private as you.
I like to keep it private, you know, and as a journalist I have a rule that if your private life has nothing to do with your public life, then I don't get into that. You've been living in the United States for a long, long time. So are you a Spaniard, Latino, an immigrant? What do you consider yourself?
I consider myself an immigrant, a Latino that was brought up in a great country that opened so many doors.
You know, we've never spoken about politics, and I'll just get a little bit into politics. So I remember that you spoke openly against the anti-immigrant law in Arizona. Why do you do that? Are you concerned when you get involved in politics that it just might backfire somehow?
No, look, I'm not concerned. I think politics are for politicians, but I mean, I'm interested in politics just like any other citizen is supposed to be. But I also have met a lot of hardworking Hispanics that have been here in the U.S. for a long time that I feel deserve to be legalized.
You're not following the World Series, right? No Boston or St. Louis. Probably more Real Madrid and Barcelona.
I am 100% Real Madrid. I watched Real Madrid, Barcelona yesterday. Football is my passion.
Much more of our conversation with Enrique is online at fusion.net. And that's Our America Today. We'll see what happens tomorrow right here at our regular time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Good night.